Hello, I'm Sebastian. Welcome to Nine Nar Trees podcast. Today, I will summarize and review the book 7 Days That Divide the World, 10th Anniversary Edition, The Beginning. According to Genesis and Science by John C. Lennox offers readers an insightful and balanced exploration into the much-debated relationship between the biblical Genesis account of creation and contemporary scientific findings. Lennox, an esteemed mathematician and philosopher of science at the University of Oxford, brings his compelling wisdom and intellectual rigor to bear on this often contentious discussion, exploring the complexities of Genesis alongside scientific discoveries in cosmology, geology, and biology. In this 10th anniversary edition, Lennox revisits previous assertions and theories, providing fresh perspectives and updated scientific insights that have emerged over the past decade. The author respects both the integrity of scientific methodology and the deeply held religious beliefs surrounding scriptural interpretation. Instead of instigating controversy, he encourages meaningful dialogue, notably emphasizing the necessity of humility, open-mindedness, and thoughtful consideration when facing these challenging intersections between faith and science. Lennox explores historical interpretations of Genesis, evaluates the consistency of these interpretations with scientific evidence, and outlines scenarios that harmonize scripture with modern science without compromising either. As our understanding of the natural world expands, Lennox asserts it is vital that Christians foster a mature, informed perspective capable of gracefully negotiating complex issues in science and theology. Thus, this edition continues to serve as an essential resource for anyone committed to understanding how faith and empirical evidence can coexist harmoniously in today's world. I will give you key takeaways from this book. Firstly, historical interpretations of Genesis. Lennox examines a historical range of Christian thought on Genesis, showing that interpretations have varied widely throughout history. Church fathers like Augustine, Origen, and Aquinas had nuanced understandings of Genesis, often highlighting symbolic interpretations rather than literal six-day creationism. By highlighting these historical perspectives, Lennox demonstrates that literal young earth interpretations aren't the only faithful way to understand biblical creation. This historical survey emphasizes that the debate between science and faith is not new. Rather, it stretches back through centuries of scholarly and theological discussions, underscoring the dynamic and complex nature of interpreting ancient texts. Lennox thoroughly details these varied interpretive stances shown throughout Christian history, emphasizing the importance of humility and intellectual flexibility when addressing contemporary scientific developments. Secondly, Genesis and the scientific method. John Lennox strategically presents the power and limitations of scientific inquiry, explaining that while science provides valuable insights into the mechanisms and timeline of the universe's formation, it does not inherently conflict with the spiritual or philosophical truths presented within Scripture. Lennox clearly differentiates empirical methodologies from metaphysical and theological truths. He argues that the perceived conflict between Genesis and modern science frequently arises from misunderstanding what science and Scripture can and cannot communicate. Instead, he promotes an approach that respects science's ability to explain how things happen, while allowing Scripture to address the whys of purpose, meaning, and human existence, effectively demonstrating how scientific methodology complements theological thought. Thirdly, interpreting the days of creation. A significant part of Lennox's argument revolves around the interpretation of the days in Genesis 1. Lennox carefully presents several interpretations, such as literal 24-hour days, symbolic or metaphorical days, and the day-age or framework hypothesis, thoroughly discussing the linguistic and contextual elements that support these perspectives. Lennox challenges readers to consider the depth and complexity of Hebrew language terminology used in the creation account, showing linguistic flexibility regarding the term day, yom, which can mean an literal day, a time period, or an epoch. This nuanced explanation helps bridge scriptural teaching with solid scientific evidence regarding the Earth's age and the universe's time frame, reflecting Lennox's approach of building a harmonious understanding rather than conflict. Fourthly, intelligent design and evolutionary theory. In addressing intelligent design and evolution, Lennox delves deeply into one of the most sensitive issues dividing science and theology. He critiques both overly rigid scientific naturalism, which excludes any possibility of supernatural influence, and rigid literalism, which dismisses widely accepted evolutionary biology and paleontological evidence. Lennox promotes a balanced viewpoint, granting legitimacy to evolutionary mechanisms as a valid scientific theory, while emphasizing that evolutionary explanations alone do not preclude the possibility of an intelligent designer. He argues persuasively that acknowledging scientific evidence for evolution need not lead to atheism, and that scientific discovery itself can be seen as uncovering evidence of purposeful design and creativity by a rational, intelligent creator. Lastly, reconciling faith and science in contemporary society, Lennox concludes his exposition by addressing practical considerations for believers today, offering guidance on how Christians can relate science to their faith constructively. He encourages a robust intellectual approach that neither rejects faith due to science nor dismisses science because of doctrinal commitment. He insists on a mindset rooted in respect for truth, intellectual honesty, and the acknowledgement that science and faith both aim to reveal truth in complementary rather than contradictory ways. Lennox illustrates that a dialogue-based, respectful approach toward contrasting viewpoints promotes richer understanding. By engaging in these thoughtful and respectful discussions, Lennox provides a strategy that allows faith and science to strengthen each other, resulting in enriched understandings of both the natural world and spiritual life. In conclusion, 7 Days That Divide the World, 10th Anniversary Edition, by John C. Lennox, is a profoundly valuable resource for scholars, scientists, theologians, and lay readers keenly interested in the dynamic relationship between science and biblical interpretation. The meticulous blend of rigorous scientific analysis and deep theological reflection equips readers with the tools necessary to engage thoughtfully and constructively in meaningful conversations about Genesis and modern science. Lennox's carefully weighted arguments ensure that diverse readership, believers grappling with scientific concepts as well as scientists examining theological claims, find value and insight within this book. Its continual relevance arises from its balanced approach, clear yet intellectually robust reasoning, and ability to explain nuanced arguments in accessible terms. This edition particularly shines by incorporating recent scientific advancements and fresh theological considerations that make it directly applicable to today's evolving dialogue between faith and science. By fostering greater mutual respect between traditionally conflicting views, Lennox advocates for a cooperative approach, promoting openness and dialogue while maintaining integrity to both scientific and religious truths. Thus, this book stands apart from others in the genre for its respectful tone, intellectual vibrancy, and clarity. Readers buying this title benefit from Lennox's unique capacity to encourage thoughtful reflection, broadening understanding concerning how the worlds of faith and science can coexist positively. Its potential to inspire respectful discourse makes it not just an educational tool, but an agent for reconciliation and deeper understanding of how science and faith enrich, rather than undermine each other. If you would like to support John C. Lennox, you can buy the book through the Amazon link I've provided in the podcast description. After reading the book, please let me know what you think and share your thoughts. See you around.